briefly thank PSU's Global Diversity and Inclusion team for putting together the Culturally Responsive Symposium and sharing your stage with us. So I am a sister of a deported veteran. My brother's name is Alberto, and I'm just going to share a little bit about his story with you today. At age 2, my brother and my family made the long trek across the border and started a new life in California's Central Valley. By age 8, my brother became a permanent resident under the Immigration Reform Control Act of 1986. Home life for my family was similar to any other recent immigrant story. My parents worked really hard as farm workers to make ends meet. 6 of us lived in a 2-bedroom house that we were lucky enough to call our home. So, you know, we didn't have a lot of money, but we were fine. By age 17, my brother graduated from high school. He was always a top student in his studies, so he even graduated a year early from high school. After that, he knew he didn't have many options where we lived if he stayed at home. So with the promise of citizenship, a stable income, education, and health benefits, the military seemed like a reasonable choice. So between the ages of 18 to 21, my brother was stationed at different bases across the country. He also went on overseas tours around the world. In 1998, he received an Expeditionary Medal for his services in Operation Southern Watch Kuwait. So the constant movement also meant that his citizenship paperwork was lost in the shuffle. When his 4 years were up, he decided not to re-enlist in the military. He had enough. By 21, he returned home upon his honorable discharge from the Army. Even though he changed, very little changed back home. Employment opportunities were dismal. He struggled with PTSD, even though at the time we didn't know that's what it was. He struggled to reintegrate back into society. He struggled to find work. He resorted to agricultural jobs like packaging carrots, and he looked for what was next. This is when he fell into drug use, which ultimately led to his arrest on felony charges. He was arrested with 3 other men, but they all walked except him. This is nothing new to us. We've long known that our criminal justice system gives harsher sentences to people of color. We were unable to get him an attorney, and you know, my family has been, we've had to carry that guilt with us for a long time. But suddenly my brother, at age only 22, he found himself facing 5 years in prison. And we didn't know that also meant that he signed his deportation paperwork. By age 27, he was transported from Avenal State Prison to Tijuana. The next few years were a roller coaster for him. He struggled with depression and had one suicide attempt that we know of. With no one to talk to or no one that would understand, my brother and my family felt powerless. He continued his story in shameful silence. He was ashamed of what had just occurred, so you know, he didn't talk to anyone about it. Recently, at age 40, roughly 13 years after his deportation, we found new hope. He realized it was time to talk. He realized many stories like this remain in the shadows. He found Deported Veterans organized online, and he found that they were bringing assurance that what they had experienced was an injustice. He realized, like many deported vets are now realizing, the U.S. failed to keep up their end of the bargain. Deportation has weighed on him like a lifelong sentence of conviction. His repeated institutionalization has bruised. His inability to return home has damaged. His family and friendship ties have been severed. The expulsion from his country he served has pained. The rejection from his homeland has cut. His benefits prohibited have offended. Right now he sits in Mexico, unable to speak to you directly about his story, so you must rely on me as a sister observer. Under our current law, only upon his death does his deportation become justified. Does his patriotism become justified? Only in a casket is he able to return home to the country that he fought for. The practice of deporting vets has continued on for over 23 years since the Clinton administration. The issue is a systemic one that runs along racial, class, and documentation status lines. One that disproportionately affects families of color that don't have the means or ability to make their voices heard. This is where Repatriate our Patriots comes in, and you come in. We're not asking that non-citizen vets not be held accountable if they commit a crime. We're just asking that they're not deported. We're asking for automatic citizenship upon enlistment. We're asking that they be given access to their benefits. We're asking that the military holds up their end of the bargain. We're asking to bring them home. That's all I have. Thank you.